So welcome everyone to the Naked Founder podcast, and today we are on location. This is the podcast where nothing is hidden. Thank you to our sponsors, Financial, the home of money for women, and our producer, Dan Brown of Renowned. Our guest today is best described as UK's Mr. Mobile. Craig Smith is the Group Managing Director of two businesses called ICT Reverse and Mazuma. Now Mazuma was established in 2006 and has bought and sold more than 5 million mobile phones. We're in their offices in Morecambe, where every month they deal with 20,000 mobile phones, and they will wipe that data from that mobile phone. ICT Reverse is a data erasure specialist dealing more B2B, and they've just announced record turnover of £11.8 million. Welcome, Craig Smith.
Thank you. Thanks for coming along, Chris. It's really nice to see you.
It's nice to be here. It's nice to be here. Craig, we always start every episode of the Naked Founder podcast with the same question: is what didn't they tell you about founding a business which you wish you'd known at the start?
Nobody told me anything about founding a business. What didn't they? I mean, yeah, I think naivety is a good thing when you're going into business. Maybe someone disagree, but I think that when I entered the business world, I knew nothing about anything. I knew nothing about overtrading or cash flow or margin or VAT and all the things that you're supposed to know. Yeah. But rightly or wrongly, I think we just got going, and I suppose they call it learning on the job, right?
Yeah.
So I knew very little apart from, I wanted to work for myself. I passionately wanted to work for myself, and I think everything I've learned on the job. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a certain naivety as well, and there's a certain innocence. If you overthink it, then you can talk yourself out of doing things.
We moved into a warehouse across the road from here. Yeah, and I always said if we'd drawn that on a whiteboard and the pros and cons, we'd never have done it.
Yeah.
But thank goodness we did do it, and it was the right call. But it just felt like I just remember that particular point felt like we should do it.
Yeah.
Probably couldn't justify it at the time. Just felt right, and we did, and it was right.
What we're going to do, you're going to take my mobile phone and you're going to show me the journey, because basically, if I want to. I've got a mobile phone, and like lots of us, we've got 3 or 4 mobile phones we're not using in our drawers at home, literally gathering dust.
Yep.
And there's money to be made on those phones, but we're worried because there's data on them. Okay, that's where Mazuma come in. This is the Naked Founder podcast. We try and talk about things that are a bit different, but other founders can relate to. So I first met you when you were with your co-founder, Simon.
Yeah.
And you parted very amicably as well. But talk you through that process as well, in the sense that sometimes you enter into a relationship, a business relationship or any other relationship as well, and at some point in the future, you might be on different roads, and it might not be right for you to both stay in the business as well. So just tell us what happened with Simon Walsh, your co-founder.
Yeah, well, Simon and I were inseparable, and we're still very close today. I only saw him recently. We are still very close, and I. We got to a point, we had a couple of offers for the firm back then, which was 2016. We had a couple of people who wanted to acquire the business. Those deals fell over. And then Simon and I was just talking. Simon had some other ideas, other stuff that he felt we should do. I wouldn't say we had a difference of opinion, but, we didn't. I had a few ideas, he had a few ideas, absolutely nothing more than normal. And with these offers that had fell over, we just started talking about maybe I should buy Simon out of the business. Difficult conversation to have, because we've been together a long time. We'd literally been through everything together in the early days of business. From starting the company, Simon came up with the name SHP at the time.
Yeah, second-hand phones.
Second-hand phones. That's Simon's. That was Simon's, and all those things that come with starting a business, all those problems, all those worries, we'd shared. But then, we chatted about it, and we agreed that might be the next step forward, and. Very proud to say that we did that deal. I think we did that deal in 4 weeks.
Yeah, so from him coming to you and from you having a conversation with him and you saying, listen, maybe the best option is for me to buy your shares out, you did that in four weeks. You're still friends today.
Yeah.
I suppose the point is, it's a bit like a marriage. It was a work marriage as well. Better to leave quickly, amicably, do the right thing by both of you, and actually the company's flourished, hasn't it? And Simon's done really well for himself as well.
I mean, Simon is a big believer in getting stuff done, and you know, he don't like to hang around. Yeah, and I'm sure if he listens to this, he'd agree with that, and he'd appreciate me saying that. So, once we decided that's what we were doing, it was never gonna take long, and yeah, I think we agreed to do that. I think it was early January. And it was done by the end of January.
Okay.
Which, yeah, it's pretty impressive, isn't it?
I'm fascinated by people's stories. You know, how did they become an entrepreneur? How did they become a founder? Your story is fascinating because you take it back to your childhood. You know, we're in Morecambe. You were brought up in Morecambe. You described your dad, I think John, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He was your hero. He used to work on Keynsham docks. Was pro-union. He also ran a toy stall in Morecambe market, as well as work as a bricklayer and a plumber. I think your mum once said that the thing he lacks is what, focus or discipline? What was the line that she used?
I mean, I only tell you that because, you know, that's what my mum used to say.
Yeah.
And my dad definitely had an entrepreneurial streak.
Yeah.
And he also, you know, he generally worked for different companies throughout his career. And we used to live, in Morecambe, we used to live next door to a guy who was a self-employed joiner.
Yeah.
And I just remember my dad used to say, "Oh, Dougie's got it good, you know." Because Dougie used to come home for lunch, you see, and he always used to say, "Dougie's got it good, hasn't he?" You know. And my mum used to say, "Yeah, but Dougie goes out of this house. He goes out because we live next door, so we know what time he goes out of the house. 8:30 every morning.
Yeah.
Back at 12:30. Never more than an hour for lunch. Back out again. Back at 5:30. And my mum always used to say to my dad, if you work for yourself." You have to be disciplined as if you work for somebody else, if not arguably more so. You know, I'm sure every founder out there listening knows that you put a lot more hours in than the clock would demand working for somebody else.
Yeah. Would it be fair to say that he was your hero, your dad?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think a lot of lads, their dad's a hero. I mean, my dad was my hero, not particularly for the entrepreneurial stuff, if you will. It wasn't just everything he did. I mean, he was my dad, and I, you know, loved him very much. And I look back on some of the things he told me at the time when I was younger, and I always listened to him. And he made a lot of sense, and he said a lot of things. You know, he said a lot of good things that have stood me in good stead for a long time. My dad.
Yeah, it sounds fantastic. And you've always been entrepreneurial. I think when you were at school, you used to run a couple of books, didn't you? You know.
I think I think probably talked to a lot of founders, and they. Excuse me, they probably tell you stories, I'm sure they do, of when they're younger. And yeah, I was always interested in business or making money and finding a way to do stuff. And yeah, throughout school, there's various things that I did, you know, that probably you could say were a little bit entrepreneurial. And then, you know, when I remember when I was obviously I think you said when we were talking earlier, you know, it's a misconception that a lot of founders leave school and found a business. You know, I think it's good to work for somebody else for a while to get some sort of get some experience under your belt. And but I remember when I was working for people, even when I was, you know, I've worked for some not so good people, I've worked for some great people, but when I was working, no matter even if it was very good, I always had this sort of feeling that, you know, it was never going to be good enough unless I did it for myself.
Yeah. You mentioned people you work for. I think when you were 18, you went to work for British Fuels. And I think you credit that with teaching a lot of the basics about business. I think you were taken under the wing of the boss, and you were able to learn the basics of business. You know, just tell us about that period of life.
I was working for a removal company at the time. And I think at the time I was on about £100 a week. Which was good money. Yeah, that sounds like my dad. Something my dad would say. Yeah. £100 a week, and this job came up as an office junior, which was about £28 a week. Yeah. And I went for that job
at British Fuels,
and everybody said, "What are you doing that for? Because you're on £100 a week." And I remember saying, "Yeah, but I'll be on £100 a week in 10 years from now." Yeah. Because the bloke next to me, he's 20 years older than me, and he's on £100 a week. Yeah. Very fair, that employer, because it didn't matter how old you were, you got paid what you got paid. But I took this job, took a big pay cut to be on £28 a week as an office junior. But
can I just say, you know, it's like, because we're similar ages as well, and we've got a varied audience as well. people think £28 a week. My God,
£28 a week.
absolutely. And you were lucky to get £28.
You could go out I don't want to sound old. You go out on a tenner though, right?
Well, Mars bars cost 10p. So okay, so you get 28 quid a week.
Yep.
But what was the benefit?
The deal was I was going to be an office junior, and I thought, and I was right, that I would learn how a business, how does this all work? And it was only a small office up the road in Carnforth, but they had a little sales department, they had an accounts payable department, an accounts receivable department, they had stock takes, and so I think more subconsciously you start to breathe this in, right? And you start to understand. And you look at most companies, right? They've got these different things that it doesn't matter what you do, you need all these different things that are the foundation of business.
It just explains, so in terms of, they've got all these different departments.
Yeah.
Okay, and slowly but surely, you're taking... Who was the guy that... was there anybody in particular that put his skills?
There was when I joined there, I think I was about 18, and there was a guy there, he was probably about mid-20s, but when you're 18, mid-20s is old, right? Yeah. And, but I liked him a lot, and he'd been promoted to office manager. They were called depots for British Fuels, depot manager. And his job was, they run them as all individual P&Ls. So his job, he had an individual P&L for his depot. And I just remember learning a lot. He was absolutely driven to make his depot. He wanted his depot to, I can't remember how many depots he had now, probably 40. He wanted his depot to be the best depot. He was focused heavily on margin. He was focused on, how do we make more money? How do we keep everyone happy? How do we keep he was just a real inspiration to looking at. And it was technically that depot that seemed enormous to me at the time was actually quite small when you think about it. But just watching and learning from him and listening to him, I found him really inspirational. And still, when I think about him, I still do. It was a long time ago.
Young people, Gen Z won't realise it. Once upon a time, if you wanted to find a job, you'd look in the vacant section, in the job section of the local newspaper or the national newspaper. In your case, you picked up a copy of the Times, and then you saw an advert to work at a company called Orange, which obviously became a heavyweight in the world of phones as well. That's how you got into mobile phones, wasn't it? Even though you thought you were going to work in Doncaster, but ended up in London.
I enjoyed working at British Fuels, and then I went on to work for another company. And the industry itself I enjoyed it, but the problem with it was all about making product last longer. Cars were running for more miles. I ended up working for an engine oil company, but the whole deal was you don't want to service your car at 10,000 miles. You want to service your car at 20,000 or 30,000, whatever it may be. So the industry I was in, I felt, for me, it was when you were targeted on selling litres of oil, and the litres of oil are lasting longer and longer, which is a good thing, obviously. Yeah. I just felt that I wanted I felt like I wanted to move away. Not that I don't love Morecambe and Lancaster, I do, but I was sort of early 20s, felt like I wanted to just do something more, and I wanted to get out of that particular industry, as I felt I needed something new and fresh. And those days, for your younger listeners, the way that you did it was you either bought a local paper for a local job, or you bought a national paper. So the appointment section in the Times, as you remember, it was huge as well. Like, the paper was massive, wasn't it? And the paper used to get out of control very quickly when you opened it. And looked through the appointment section on that, and applied for a job at Orange. My first experience, I thought it was so professional, because that was my first entry into recruitment agents and recruitment days. So Orange invited me to a recruitment day in Manchester, which involved a full 9 to 5, psychometric testing, interviews, pitch on yourself, role play, the whole thing. Yeah, I mean, I'd never done anything. I mean, my life had been, not that I'd had many jobs at that point, but it'd always been a one-to-one interview. Yeah. This was a whole day of, and just to get to the end of it felt like an achievement, Chris. Yeah. It lasted all day in the Britannia Hotel, I think it was, in Manchester. Yeah. And they called me up and they said, congratulations, you've got through the test. Now you have to go for the interview. Yeah. And I went for an interview. They had a place in Darlington. Went for the interview, and they said, we want you to do Grimsby. Yeah. Yeah. Now, not knowing Grimsby very well, still don't, but I'm sure I believe it's a nice place.
Yeah.
But coverage was the thing then.
Yeah.
It's all about, people don't think about it now, but your mobile phone, does it work? Doesn't it work? Does it work in Glasgow? Does it work in Newcastle? Does it work between Glasgow and Newcastle? Anyway, they then rang me about 2 days later and said, "Oh, there's been a bit of a cock up. We haven't actually got a job in Grimsby, but would you fancy a job in Kingston upon Thames?"
Yeah.
I didn't know where that was, but I knew it wasn't round here. So I said, yeah.
Yeah, what's the worst that can happen?
And then before you knew it, I was in the London office for Orange, and I was working Kingston upon Thames. Yeah.
It's where you met Simon Walsh, your future business partner.
I did.
And fairly soon after that, you decided to set up SHP, second-hand phones.
We've done about 5 years. I mean, like I say, I met Simon. I've been there a couple of years when I met Simon, and we were about five. I was about 5 years into my career at Orange and thoroughly enjoying it. A brilliant firm to work for. Really, really early days of mobile, so it was wonderful. But then we like a lot of good businesses that are founded. We saw we saw a problem. A problem. I don't know if you want to call it a problem, but we saw there was something that needed fixing, and that's why we set up the business.
Yeah, originally, you had a storage unit in Wimbledon, didn't you?
We did.
But then you wanted to come back up north, so you decided to come back up north. And then the business has gone from strength to strength ever since, actually. I want to talk about one thing before, if it's okay with you, we'll go for a tour and you can explain what would happen to my mobile phone if I was to send it in here. So you're growing quite nicely. You get SHP to around 4 million turnover, £500,000 EBITDA. And then you secured somebody called Lord Digby Jones as an advisor. Well, for people of my generation, Digby Jones is a former Director General of the CBI, a Minister of State, well-known, high-profile TV personality. You're a punchy little startup, which is based in Morecambe. I hope you don't mind me saying that.
Not at all.
Okay, and then you secure him as an advisor. And the better still, you're not paying them anything. How did that happen?
I think people talk about it a lot these days, don't they? But you really do need to put your head up and politely and respectfully ask for things. We won a competition run by HSBC, and we won the Northern finalist of the Business of the Year for HSBC at the time. And the prize was a trip out to Shanghai, and with other people around the country who'd also won similar awards in their region. And the idea was, and it was probably before Dragon's Den, I think, or, certainly around that time. The idea was you had to pitch your business to 4 or 5 business experts. One of them was Lord Digby Jones. And as I pitched my business, I think you had 3 minutes to pitch. And at the end of it, 3 minutes is difficult for me, Chris, as you probably already realised.
Yes, yeah.
So I did my pitch, and then he very kindly gave me his business card and said, "Listen, if you ever want to reach out in the future, please do."
Yeah.
Which I thought was great. So I arranged to meet him. I kind of contacted him a few times, and like I say, he's a busy man, so you got to keep going. Don't be put off by the first time he doesn't come back to you. And ended up meeting him in a hotel in London, and just be honest. I just said, look, we're not a big company. We haven't got a gazillion pound in the bank. I know you work for some very, very large businesses, but we'd really, really like some help. And do you think you might be able to help us? And I think if you're honest and if you say it sincerely as it is, then people will help you.
And did he said, I think, because I've met Lord Digby Jones, and he said, "Listen, you couldn't afford me, lads, but I'll do it."
Yeah.
I think he covered his expenses.
Yeah.
In terms of opening doors and adding credibility, I suppose that's what he did, was it? Because he didn't understand the mobile industry like somebody who'd worked in it all their lives.
No, I mean, he's really kind. I mean, he's working for, at the time he was working for, Balfour BT, he was working for Jaguar. Like I say, he was heavily involved with the government. He's obviously a peer. He was So yeah, he didn't really have any. He was doing a TV show shortly after that. He did like it was that guy from ICI who did it to John Harvey Jones, right?
Yeah,
He was doing a
yeah.
similar thing to him. So he said, "Look, I don't know why I'm doing this because I really haven't got the time, and but I'll help you." So he used to come up occasionally, and we used to run through what we run through our numbers and tell him what we were doing and what the strategy was, and he invited us to some dinners that we would never got in the door if it hadn't been for him, and therefore we could meet other people. We met some really influential people through Lord Jones that we wouldn't have met had we not had that introduction from him. Yeah.
I'm going to have a break in a second because we're going to go downstairs and you're going to give me a quick tour of the site. But just correct me if I'm wrong. So, like SHP, second-hand phones, rebranded, became ICT Reverse because you expanded beyond mobile phones.
Yep.
And then in 2018, by which time Simon, your co-founder, had left the business, the company was acquired by an Asian firm called EcoNew, which also bought Mazuma. You became the MD. Why did you do the deal then? And did it change the dynamic in the business?
We had no plan to sell the company. My view was I'd taken control of the business. I've very proudly given 10% of the business back to some of the employees who'd been with me on the whole journey, which I was really proud about, and that came to a really nice fruition for them when we did sell. But we had no plan to sell the company, and we actually got an offer from a very large American billion-pound organisation that came along. Again, out of the blue, we got a phone call off somebody who said, "Look, this is who we are."
It was Exertis, wasn't it?
No, that Exertis was pre.
That was
Simon
pre-Simon leaving.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we got a phone call off a very large business. We were really flattered by that, and although we didn't have a plan to sell, we couldn't ignore that. We had to look at that. And that was just 6 months of that was a learning curve. 6 months of distraction, us putting numbers together. They'd come on the phone on a Tuesday and say, "We need this. Can we have your cash flow? Can we have your forecast? Can we have this?" All the things that you'd expect them to ask. Can we have them by tomorrow? And then you'd deliver all this stuff, and then you wouldn't hear from them for like 6-7 weeks, and you almost thought the deal was over. Then they come back. This went on, and in the end, I kind of said, "Look, I don't think this is going to happen." So
you get a feel for it, don't you?
We never went back to them and said we're not doing it, but we felt that it wasn't going to happen. And I actually remember saying to my senior team, "This deal is not going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm going on holiday.
Yeah.
I'm going to write a plan because I've always got a notebook. I'm going to write a plan, and when I come back off holiday, I'll present the plan to you. And then we're not selling. We're going to do this. We're going to do this, and this is what we're going to do." And while I was on holiday, I got another phone call off the guy from EcoNew. Yeah. The EcoNew is owned by two guys, but he was the MD at the time, CEO. And he rang me up and said, "We'd like to buy your business."
It's EcoRenew.
Yeah, EcoRenew.
Okay, yeah.
And he said, "We'd like to buy your company." And I said, "No, thank you. I'm not interested." And he said, "What's wrong with you?" "Yeah, I've just rung you up and said I want to buy your company." I said, "I know, but I've just done 6 months of this." Yeah. And he said, "Well, hang on a minute. Who was that with?" I told him, and he went, "Well, look, we're not that. We're not a multinational billion-pound American company. We're a decent-sized company, but we're effectively owned by two guys who run the firm. And if they like you, they'll buy you, and if they don't, they won't. And you'll have a decision quickly. So, would you mind sending me some information and we'll talk further?" And again, talking about deals, that deal was done in 6 weeks.
You did the deal, so you sold ICT Reverse to EcoRenew, and then they bought Mazuma after that. So there were two companies. They asked you to be Group MD of both ICT Reverse and Mazuma. Going to come back after a quick break. You're going to give me a quick tour so you can show me what happens, the journey of a mobile phone.
Okay.
Okay. So here we are. Okay. My phone's been taken in. It's been scanned in. I've got the QR code.
Yep.
Okay. Talk me through the process now.
Okay, so the first thing is we want to check. You'll have gone on our website and you'll have said what it is. So you'll have said, for example, it's an iPhone 14, and then we want to check first of all that it is what it says it is. Once we've checked it is what it says it is, we want to check the grade. You get, when you go on and do a trade with Mazuma, you get 3 grades: excellent, good, poor. So we want to check that it marries that. Once we've done that, we'll put it through and we'll pay you.
Okay. I won't show it on the video, but you've got a dashboard there, you've got a big screen, so you can see, in real time, what devices you're working on, what you're sending out, etc., etc.
Yeah, so, we process at peak around 1,000 units a day, which, as you can imagine, is quite a lot of kit. So we want to check how long we're spending on kit, what's taking longer. I think it's really important that we say that one of our problems at Mazuma is people think they only can send working phones in, but we take broken phones. Broken phones have got a lot of value. We check every day. And as I said earlier, we've got to get you paid by 5 o'clock. Your phone comes in here and it hits us about 8:30 in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning. We're under pressure to get you paid by 5 because that's our promise. There's a lot to do.
Okay, and where we are now, this is where the magic happens. So this is where your phones are erased, polished, buffed up, call it what you will, and then they go through, and then presumably they're sold to insurance companies or retailers or whoever.
Yeah, so at this stage here, we've brought your phone in, we've tested it, graded it, we've paid you. So now we've bought the phone, if you will. And then from there on in, what we're trying to do within the circular economy is make that phone the best it can be to then put it back into the market. So people sometimes confuse us and think that we kind of crush the phones and recycle them and get the gold out of them. Yeah. But if you take any time to read anything these days, there's very little gold in an iPhone these days. Yeah. So the way that we operate is that we want to improve that phone, and then we want that phone to have a second life.
Well, welcome back to the Naked Founder podcast. Okay, we now know what's going to happen to my mobile phone when I send it to these clever people at Mazuma as well. It's worth saying we're in a boardroom at Mazuma, and you can see in the back, you can see the magic happening over my left shoulder. So they did the deal for ICT Reverse and Mazuma, but it didn't go so well. So Mazuma, I think, were making about 2.3 million EBITDA.
Mazuma was making about I think together they were making 2.3.
2.3. Yeah. So between them, they're making 2.3, and then the deal was done, and then afterwards they were losing 4.7 million. Okay, so that's not great news, clearly. And you went to them with a solution and renegotiated the contract.
I mean, it was awful. And again, I'm sure lots of people out there listening can resonate with that. Selling your company and then it really not going well at all. I hope that, so it was really upsetting. I remember ringing somebody I know and I said, what do you think about selling your company? And they said, the only thing I can tell you, Craig, is remember when you sell your company, it's not your train set anymore.
Yeah.
That was so pivotal because it wasn't my train set anymore. I'd sold 100% of the company. They'd asked me to stay for 12 months. Yeah. They held back 10% of my money in order that I'd get paid that money in 12 months. But
like an earn-out.
I had to stay. It wasn't an earn-out because the money was guaranteed.
Yeah.
But the deal was I stayed for 12 months. But within that 12 months, they brought in a whole new group of people to run the company. Important to say that the owners, the 2 guys who own the company, had nothing to do with that. Yeah. They were in Hong Kong. One's actually in Hong Kong, one's in Manila. They were leaving it to the people they'd employed. So I always knew they weren't really aware of what was going on, which bothered me again. But my instructions were quite clear. I couldn't necessarily talk to them guys. I was talking to the CEO, quite rightly. But yeah, it was an upsetting period of time because the business was going from bad to worse. Both companies were going from bad to worse. I think the founders of Mazuma, they were one had left and one stayed, and the one that stayed is a good friend of mine today. I think he felt the same as I did, that it was really upsetting to see something you've built start getting broken down by people who don't care like you do and don't understand it like you do, don't see what you see. And obviously the company by then was we were 14 years old, say, I'd worked with a lot of people for a long time, and seeing the culture dilute, seeing people's view, it was terrible, awful.
You became a group MD, and
Yeah.
I think you renegotiated your contract, didn't you, with him?
Well, yeah, I mean, I remember the two owners talking to me. They came to the UK, and we were talking, and I'm a very honest person, Chris. I think that's how you get things done, and be straight with people always. And I just said, look, this is terrible, absolutely terrible. And I think when my 12 months is up, for the first time in my life, I remember I didn't really have a job. I used to come to the office every day, and not really knowing what to do. I came one of them annoying people just wandering around, like trying to see if anyone had anything to talk about, which was not my style.
Yeah.
And then again, in the complete honesty, I said, look, when my 12 months is up, I'm going to be gone. Yeah, I don't actually think. I mean, the two guys who owned it were putting money in to keep it going.
Yeah.
It wasn't making any money anymore. And I just said, I think I'll leave. I'm definitely going to leave when this is up. I've served my time, and anyway, we had a chat, and they were like, look, can we not put something together? And we agreed that I would take over running the UK, and I've been doing so ever since.
And I say you did that on your terms as well. You effectively were brought in to do a turnaround, really, weren't you?
Yeah, it was completely turnaround. I mean, it wasn't in a good place. I'm not happy to say.
And turnarounds are based on, like, successful turnarounds are based on making tough decisions. You had a tough decision to make early on because Mazuma were based down in the south, Watford, I think. You wanted to bring them all up, the whole manufacturing team, hook, line and sinker, to Morecambe. They didn't want to go, so you effectively brought them up from Morecambe, but had to build a new business effectively. Bring new teams.
And that's not, there's a lot of tough decisions that we've made over the years that I still stand behind today. I always think those decisions, they have to be made for the greater good of the business. And when I decided that I was, when I took the job on of running both companies, and equally, the founder, the two guys I talk about, had offered me equity in the business. So, I was all in. And if I'm all in, I felt the best way of doing it was to run the business from here. You'll know that our companies are literally very close to each other. So I felt that needed to happen. We also needed a bigger premises. I felt we needed to move the business, and the guys in Watford were good. A lot of good people there, but they'd had 12 months of that awfulness as well. So they weren't particularly overly motivated at the time, which I understand. But yeah, I just felt the best thing to do was to move the company to Morecambe.
Nobody came from Watford to Morecambe. So
nobody came.
That was a challenge, but
nobody came.
I
don't think there was Uber then.
No.
Morecambe. I was the main driver.
Yeah. Yeah, dad joke.
I mean, Morecambe's where I grew up, and I'm a big fan of Morecambe and Lancaster. I live here. I'm very proud that we've put 200 jobs in the town in both companies now.
Just let's talk about so you turn it around, as you can see. We've seen by the numbers, which is great news. Mazuma making good money. You have a no dickhead policy at work. I think culture is really important to you, isn't it? Nice to be important to be nice. So there's no ego attached to you. Certainly, in my experience. Just tell us a bit about ICT Reverse, because they've just reported a £32 million profit. They're up to £11.8 million turnover. You've got a brilliant MD in Sophie Gray. You've got a really good, brilliant MD here at Mazuma as well. That's really important to you, Tom. That you focus on B2B, don't it? So how does ICT Reverse work?
ICT Reverse is obviously, our the company that we started with. We rebranded SHP into ICT. Initially, what we used to do, we used to talk to businesses and ask them if they had any old phones. That was the, hi Chris, morning to you, Chris, how are you? Do you have any old phones? Odd question to ask maybe, but that was what we did. And from there, we grew a really successful business where we were bringing phones in from corporates, and not unlike what Mazuma does, but doing it for business rather than consumer. We were bringing those phones in and repatriating.
So, a council or a police company.
I mean, bigger the company, the better in a way, because they've got more assets. And then we opened it up to, we only did mobile for a number of years, and then gradually we started, doing mobile, and then laptop and desktop monitors, and now we're into, now we do a lot of work with data centers, switches, servers, hard drives, all the products that you would. I mean, that's hence the name ICT, right? Anything that in a business that is ICT. Once it becomes to the refresh or the end of life of that product, then we take it away, do the same thing, data wipe it, test it, grade it, and then try and resell it.
In terms of Mazuma's the main sponsor for Morecambe Football Club. Now we're in Morecambe. You're a Morecambe lad as well. How did that come about? And what was it like seeing your name on the side of this local football club stadium?
We went to see Morecambe Football Club a good few years ago now. I remember sitting in the boardroom at Morecambe and saying, "Look, we're moving. I've taken over Mazuma and wanted to get some publicity for it." It was actually the idea of one of the two gentlemen I mentioned before, a guy called Paul. He said we should. He's a big football fan, so he's like, we should do something locally. We'd already done something. We'd done something when Morecambe were at their other ground previously. But so anyway, I went along to see Morecambe. And I said, look, we understand that we can't just expect to walk in here and everybody wants a shirt, right? That's what everybody wants. But we'd like to do something with Morecambe Football Club. What do you think we could? What could we get involved in? And one of the guys, there was about 4 or 5. There was a commercial team there and a couple of directors and stuff. And one of the guys, genuinely, Chris, said, "What about the sock? I tell you what we could do. You could be on the socks, yeah." And I was like, "Yeah, well, that's a start, isn't it?" And then this other guy said, "Or you could be on the shorts. Yeah, what about the shorts?" And I went, "Shorts is it? That's an upgrade from socks, I think." Yeah. And then this other guy went, "You could be on the shirt." Yeah. And I said, "Well, we didn't want to assume that." And then this other guy said, "You could sponsor the stadium." Yeah. And I think that happened in about 11 seconds. So before you knew it, we'd gone from socks to stadium, and very proud and very proud to say that we did a deal on the stadium and renamed it from the Globe to the Mazuma.
I don't want to embarrass you, but through the last couple of questions. So you're finalist in the EY Entrepreneur of the Year, North Region category as well. That must have been a special moment for you, having seen like predecessors get included in their list.
Really something. I mean, I've always read the business pages of stuff. Probably when I was probably too young to have been into, but I did. And, particularly, I've always had an interest in business. And so I followed that for some time and seen some of the previous winners who have gone on to do something, some amazing things. And so when it came out and, applied to it, and I'd already been to the previous year's dinner, so I knew a little bit about it. And to get through to be asked to go through to the finalists, and then I've now got through to the next stage. So yeah, over the moon with that, and really proud.
I was thinking about how many mobile phones I've got sitting in drawers at home.
Yeah.
And I've got 2 kids who are in their 20s and a wife as well. It's a lot of mobile phones.
I'm sure.
And it is, and everybody must be like me as well. What's your message to people out there watching or listening to this podcast about mobile phones?
It's the number one topic in this building is if only we could convince all these people with mobile phones in their drawers to send them in. I mean, the first thing is they're depreciating. So the phone that you had in your drawer last year is worth less this year than it was last year. But all the barriers that people, if you talk to people, the reason they don't send their phone to us is 1, they're short on time. 2, they don't think there's enough money in it. 3, they're worried about the data that's on the phone. I think we've covered all those bases. I think it's easy to do. We pay your phones, not just working phones. Broken phones have value too. We will raise the data. We make sure that phone's completely secure when we finish with it. So yeah, I would love if more people would take those phones out of the drawer and send them to us.
Okay, all right. Well, you heard it here first. Okay, final question, which is the one we always end the Naked Founder podcast with, which is there's a customer in the US where the outgoing president will write a letter to his or her successor as well. If you were writing a letter to your younger self or to a founder on day one based on your experiences, what would you write?
I would write, work really hard, understand that you've got to work really hard, but I would also say to enjoy it.
Enjoy the ride.
Even the dark days, I think it's easy to look back on the darker times when you've come through them. But I really think that some of those times we had when we together, the people that work still with me today, when our backs were to the wall, and I think that gives us what we have today, where we're a very close team. And I think some of that is because we've gone through some of them times together. So it's easy to say, but I would say try and enjoy every day.
Okay, great advice. Thanks very much to Craig Smith. That's all for this episode of the Naked Founder podcast. If you did like what you listened to or what you watched, tell your friends, give us a 5-star review, and make sure you press that subscribe button as well. Thank you to Financial for sponsoring us and to Dan Brown for producing us. And as always, my name is Chris Maguire.